Hi. Thanks for coming. I got a microphone and a lot to say. I'm ready to yap. I'm feeling a lot of happy endings, happy beginnings in my life right now. And these are just things that I keep coming back to. So grab your water, grab a snack, grab whatever you want. I don't judge. That sounded crazy. I wrote these notes like months ago. I just never got around to filming it. So it's gonna be kind of new to both of us. These are lessons that I keep. Oh, I'm Sydney, by the way. These are just lessons that I keep relearning, just things that I try to live by, practices that I try to adopt that are in line with my values, and also just like practical advice that I try to keep in mind as I live my life. By no means am I perfect. Like, these are lessons that I keep coming back to. I'm making this video for me as much as I am for you. Mostly me, quite honestly. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my laptop. You clicked this video for a reason. It found you for a reason. Let's get to the reasons. First point that I put is perspective is everything. I feel like we hear it a lot, but it's true. We assign the meaning to all things and the significance that it has in our lives. Zoom in or out as you see fit, depending on what you need. If you are really overwhelmed with something you're doing in the moment, try to zoom out and see it in the span of your life. This is only a moment in time and it will pass, and you will make it through it as you have every other thing up until this point. If you're focused on too many things at once, try zooming into one thing and taking it one step at a time. Try to choose to see things in a way that best serves you and doesn't harm anybody else. Number 2 is respect the journey. Like, trust the process. I know we hear it all the time. Really trusting that you are where you're meant to be at any given moment in time, and that even if it's not where you want to be, is going to lead you where you want to be, really soothes the process and makes it a lot easier to get to where you want to be if you're not constantly resisting where you are. If you keep practicing resistance to the present, you will never ever be satisfied ever, because once you get to where you want to be, there's always going to be something else that you're reaching for. The more you trust the journey, the more you trust your own process, I feel like life itself gets easier, knowing that what is meant for you will not miss you. 3, getting super deep with it. Number 3 is love is never a waste of time. It takes time to realize. I don't come to it immediately, but truly in my heart I do believe that love is never a waste of time, and I mean that in every single context. Hot take actually in this era of the world, I guess, but I'm gonna leave it there. You don't have to agree. This is my list. You can make your own list. Number 4 really goes hand in hand with the last one, but it is learn to forgive. Forgiveness doesn't mean that whoever wronged you was right in doing so, that whatever happened was justified, but forgiveness allows you to heal. And I'm speaking to the self that I know is gonna watch this back. The walls you put up to protect yourself from any other potential hurt, 1, also keep the existing hurt inside with nowhere to go, and at that point you're just swimming in it. You're literally drowning yourself in it. And 2, the walls also keep out any potential good from coming in, and by good I mean love. Like, you will not be able to feel love if those walls are up. Like, forgiveness and love go hand in hand. Forgiveness is not easier. I will say that I think it does get easier in my experience, and it's valid if you still have things that you haven't forgiven others for, or even yourself for. Keep in mind that it's freeing, and yeah, it frees the other person and you might not want to do that, but it frees you, and I think that's the most important part. Not to say that forgiveness should be selfish and you're only doing it for yourself, but you do deserve to free yourself from the burden of what you're keeping in. I was someone who used to hold grudges. It takes me a minute to process things, which is valid as a human. Again, we're all human here. You know, maybe your dog's watching. That's none of my business. We're learning, and nobody is perfect. Oh, the way that I wrote this list is kind of good, because this one goes into the last one. Number 5 is closure does not require 2 people. Also a hot take. There's not one person on this earth that can make you accept what happened, and I think essentially closure is a full acceptance of what happened. So whether or not you have a conversation, whether you do and it's great, I love that for you, just know that you don't have to find peace without a specific ending. Nobody can give that to you, only you can give it to yourself. That's just me. Again, I'm gonna say that after every single point. Number 6 is anger is always a secondary emotion. I feel like this is really helpful to know for myself and how I process emotions, but also when I see anger come up in other people. You might immediately feel angry because the switch happens really fast, but find out what's underneath. I think the primary emotion behind my anger a lot of the time is sadness, and anger is just like the switch that happens in my brain as a means to feel control of the sadness, or like processing that emotion in a healthy way, feeling it first and then seeing what's left underneath, I feel like has been really helpful for me, and that's why I wrote it. Number 6 is be responsive, not reactive. So if a situation happens and it makes you angry, acting out of that anger would be reacting, but like acknowledging that anger and seeing what's underneath and responding from that place instead, I'd say is more responding. It's more conscious. In my experience, I've been able to communicate better from that place rather than the cover-up emotion. Number 8, I know we already talked about forgiveness, but self-compassion. Please give yourself some grace. If you are truly not the person you were when you did something before that you weren't proud of, if your character has actively changed, if you are different now, then it's a lot easier to grow if you aren't shitting on yourself. I feel like you cannot grow if you're constantly bullying yourself. 9 is don't put your self-worth in someone else's hands. Nobody cares about what you're doing or how it looks as much as you do. I feel like it's really dumb when people say you shouldn't care what other people think. I understand where they're coming from, but that phrasing is so wrong to me. You're allowed to care what other people think. You're supposed to. It's impossible to get rid of that. It's a human need to be accepted by others, so it's something that we do naturally. It becomes kind of detrimental when you're valuing it over what you think about yourself. I've been in that place before, deep in that place before. It's really paralyzing because you could be living your best life in alignment with all your values, and there's still gonna be a hater. This is another point. I've heard it multiple times. I don't know who's the first person who said it, but in an effort to combat my people-pleasing tendencies, I try to remember this. Stop trying to get everyone to like you. You don't even like everyone. If we're being super real, especially when I was younger, I'd change little things or the way I act around certain people, trying to fit in or be accepted. When I took a step back, I didn't even like those people. What's the point? Wasted energy. Number 10, this is another thing that I heard that was comforting. I put self-discovery is less about finding yourself and more about remembering who you were before the world got to you. Personally, I believe that everyone is born good. Everyone is born pure. Babies are pure. But as beliefs are projected onto them, as they're taught certain things, as they grow up and absorb things around them that are happening and what's acceptable and what's not, it conditions us to be a certain way. But the reason that's comforting to me is because it makes who I want to be, my higher self and the idealized version of myself, not so far away because it's already in me. I'm rediscovering it instead of trying to find it somewhere in someone or something, which is impossible, by the way. I've tried it. It doesn't work. The most self-discovery happens for me when I realize that those are just layers. You're like an onion. You're like the core of the onion is what I'm saying. The next one I wrote is to trust your gut. Nourish your relationship with yourself enough to be able to trust your gut. A practical way that I've practiced this with myself, super practical and seems very unrelated, but hear me out. If I was thinking about wearing 2 different outfits to an event, rather than asking my friend, I take a step back and ask myself, what do you want to wear? How do you want to feel at this event? And listen to what you want. It doesn't have to be clothes, obviously, but it's a little thing that you can practice to kind of strengthen your tendency to turn inward rather than always searching outward for an answer. And as you practice that, your gut feeling and your voice of intuition in what you should do will become louder each time, and the easier it will be to trust yourself. Hi, if the lighting looks like it changed, it's because it did. Okay, the next one, I think that's number 12. Last one was trust the journey. This one is enjoy the journey. We only have the now. We only have the present. And the gag is the future does not exist. The future does not exist. We experience the past as memories in the present. We will never be able to go to the future. We only experience the now. If you are actively practicing waiting on happiness, you will never be content in life. So the key is really just enjoying wherever you're at now. Movies would be boring with flatline plots. If there was no, rise and fall, it would be really boring. And I know there are going to be some people playing devil's advocate being like, I could watch a peaceful movie. If there was no story to it, no you wouldn't. Don't lie to me. The next one again goes directly into the last one, but I wrote romanticize the ordinary, romanticize the mundane, romanticize your cup of coffee in the morning, romanticize the sun coming in through your window, romanticize the breaths that you're taking, the air that you breathe. When you have a cold and you can't breathe out of your nostrils and you're like, damn, I didn't appreciate it when I wasn't sick. I was stressed about other things, but now I'm struggling to you can't breathe out of your nostrils, but you only appreciate it when you don't have it. you know? So learn to appreciate things while you do have it. And I feel like going back into the last point, that will make life a lot more enjoyable. You'll be a lot more content. And I'm not saying be okay with having less, but appreciate what already is. Romanticizing the little things that you often overlook that are like little blessings in a healthy way, not like romanticizing your toxic relationship. Like, babes, who's gonna tell you? Number 14 is to tell the people that you love them in your preferred font. What I mean by that is, I know not everybody is verbally expressive with their affection. You don't even have to say the words I love you or write it. Just show the people that you love that you care about them while you still have them. Never know what could happen. I don't mean to be morbid, but they would really appreciate it, and I'm sure you'd appreciate it too. Number 15 is don't assume things. I think a better way to say this would be like, don't jump to conclusions. Get the full picture, have conversations, even if it's hard. They'll make everybody feel a lot better. The next one is pause more often. Just practice like taking it all in as it's happening. Remember to be where your feet are. Really like in this moment. I'm like here in the here and now. Number 17, I think we're on number 17. Be the observer of your thoughts and emotions rather than identifying with them. You are not mad and you're not sad. You feel mad and you feel sad. You are a person who feels a multitude of things, but you are not anger and you are not sadness. The wording matters. The wording matters. The way that we speak to ourselves matters. People say like, no, like I know the difference. Like the wording doesn't matter. It matters. There was a study, I forget who it was by. Forgive me. I'll put the name somewhere. But they had different groups of water and they spoke to one group positively, saying things like, you are beautiful, you're doing great, just positive affirmations. And then they spoke to the other group of water negatively, like you suck. The fuck is wrong with you kind of thing. And then they froze the water and then they looked at the ice under a microscope and they found that the water that they spoke to positively formed really uniform, really beautiful crystals, like the patterns. And then when they looked at the ice from the water that they spoke negatively to, it was all jagged and really sharp and not uniform. So my point is, if speaking to water affects how it freezes, the shape of it, its physical form, can you imagine what speaking negatively to yourself or others is doing? So yeah, words do matter. Emotions are quite literally energy in motion, and our feelings are just reactions to our thoughts. So the less you identify with your feelings, the more clarity you'll be able to have in moving through those emotions. Hey guys, me again. Yeah, bad news. My phone stopped recording, so we're just gonna roll with it. The show must go on because I've been filming for so long already that we have to keep going. It's almost like I'm giving you advice through FaceTime. It's like a big sister FaceTime. Number 18 is have boundaries, know your boundaries, and respect your own boundaries before you expect anybody else to respect them. I'm just the messenger. If you don't respect your own boundaries, it's not a real boundary in the first place because there's nothing really solid stopping anyone from crossing it. There's nothing to cross. They're just walking right over at that point. It's tough thing to like decide on, I guess, and how to go about if you're not used to it. But again, practice makes progress, you know? Number 19 is trust that everything happens for a reason. This is kind of like trust the process. Everything is happening as it should. You are exactly where you need to be, even if it's not where you want to be necessarily. You might not be able to see the whole scheme of things. At least for me, I'm so happy that I went through the struggles that I did because it brought me to who I am today. I'm not saying you have to use your struggle to push you forward, but you deserve to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it is an option. If I could tell my younger self only one thing, I think it would be this. Every event that's happening to you in the moment is happening to lead you to where you need to be. Okay, moving on. Number 20 is to fill your own cup before you fill anybody else's. It's not selfish, it's self-care. It's what makes caring for others possible. It's like on planes, the emergency procedure is to put on your oxygen mask first and then help the person next to you or whoever put on theirs. Because if you can't breathe, if you don't have oxygen, how are you supposed to help the other person? You can't. Number 21 is try to schedule your breaks, or your body will schedule them for you. And usually it's at a time that's like the least convenient. I don't know, if you're studying for 5 hours, like I just need 5 hours of studying, I need to get it done. Like no break. Your body will always tell you what you need. If you don't give it breaks, it will shut down. I'm not saying you'll never break down or like have a bad day if you plan to take breaks, but I feel like it'll be less stress on your body if you choose to schedule them in. That is honestly probably one of the biggest points for me right now. Number 22 is taking risks will expand who you are. If you want to do a crazy risk, if you want to jump out of a plane, like by all means, if you're like set to do that, do it. If that's where your threshold of like what risk is, do it. Go jump out of that plane. What I mean by risk is like stepping outside of your comfort zone. So whatever that looks like for you, try to do it gradually, little by little. That's what I mean by risk. I don't mean like commit a crime or anything. I don't mean that, just to clarify. Try to do little things or big things if you're ready, if you want to, that put you outside of your comfort zone in places that you probably wouldn't be. You never know where it could lead you, who you might meet that will lead you to, you don't even know. Great things, and you wouldn't have known. Number 23 is an indirect to myself. Stop waiting for the perfect time to start something or to do something. Stop using that as an excuse to start. There will always be struggles and obstacles in anything in life. Do your best with what you have. As long as you are walking in the direction of where you want to be, you'll get there eventually. Something about starting is very intimidating. Usually within like the first 5 minutes of being all in to something, it's a lot easier from there. If I've committed to this, I know I want to do this, like, just do it. For your own sake. But don't wait for the perfect time, because there literally is no perfect time. Just start. See how you feel after that. 24 is to be honest with yourself and others. With yourself first, because if you allow yourself to lie to yourself about certain things, or you're not totally honest, your integrity just weakens. Know your values. Practice them the best you can when people are looking, and especially when people aren't looking. The next one is to lean on others and trust that the people who truly love you want to be there for you. Allow people to be there for you. Give them the gift of being your friend. Don't assume you're a burden. A lot of times I feel like I've been reluctant to lean on people that love me because I didn't want to burden them, because I love them and I didn't want to inconvenience them, but they do truly want to be there for you. And they can't do that if you're closed. And if it helps, think about it switched. So if your friend was really going through something and they needed your help and they just didn't ask for it, or like didn't let you know, I think it's fair to say that you'd feel like, I'm right here, like I wanted to help you this whole time, how was I supposed to know? Next one is question what you know. Don't be so closed off and stubborn to the world because you don't know what you don't know. You are unaware of what you don't know yet. You can't discover what you don't know if you're closed off to discovering new information. Pause to reflect on things, whether it's like journaling or, you know, you can make voice notes for yourself. Just taking time to pause and reflect on things, I feel like has been essential in me growing as a person. I have an entire video of me reading journal entries on my channel and reflecting on how I was different at the time that I was reading them versus when I wrote them, on what has already happened, what I've already been through, how I've already felt before in similar situations. It's helped me to live more intentionally and more in alignment with who I want to be. The next one, I'm pretty sure I said like twice. Like, there's always a kind way to put something. I feel like people use being honest as an excuse to be rude sometimes. Like, I'm just being real. I'm just blunt. There is many ways to say the same thing. So you 100% could have found at least one nice way to say that. It's like constructive criticism. Like, is it constructive criticism or are you just being an asshole? Like, there's a big difference. It's a big difference in the intention and like where it's coming from. Realize that we are all interconnected. Whether you like it or not, we all came from the same place. Separation from that standpoint will never benefit anybody. It's always better to work together, you know what I mean? And you could argue like, well, they're not working with me, da da da. It's like, if you have the capacity to offer someone kindness when they themselves cannot, I believe it goes a long way. And I feel like if you don't, it just continues the cycle. It's really just a matter, I feel like for me, of like which cycles am I continuing? Like, do I want to continue the cycle of like being angry? And do I want to put that into the world and get more of it back? Probably not. Just karma. I'm talking about a whole lot of different things here. I'm just gonna move to the next point now. The next one is emotions were meant to be felt. Something happened in your life and made you feel a certain way and you blocked it off because of trauma, or like, you know, subconsciously, you don't even know. It'll always come up in other ways. You gotta feel it to heal it. I think I can just leave that one there as well. It seems like this is a really random last one to end off on because it's more practical than all the other ones that I said, but you don't have to be good at your hobbies. I think the only requirement for a hobby is that you enjoy it, you keep at it, you make time for it, as long as you're enjoying it. But naturally, I feel like people do get better at their hobbies. Like, if it's a sport, if it's a craft, the more you invest time into something, the more you'll be able to hone in on your skills and get better at it naturally. I think I'm gonna leave it there for tonight. Thank you for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. Like it if you want. Also tell me which one of these resonated the most for you, if you feel called to, or maybe something that you feel like you would add to your list. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'll be back when I'm back. I wish you love. I wish you peace and happiness and a great rest of your day, week, month, year, life. You might see me again on this platform. Who knows where this will go. Thanks for hanging. Bye.